Okay, so on the back of the last video where I talked about AS studies for 3D design, I thought it'd be useful if I went through the A2 studies, which is your year 13 studies for 3D design, because there are some slight differences within the AOs, and it might be worth just having a chat about what we deliver and any advice I can give on that. So we're going to start off just by looking at AO1, the development of ideas that are informed by contextual study of past and present 3D design in our own and other cultures and sources, such as so on and so forth. This is the exact same at AS level. However, we go into more detail regarding architecture at A level, which students seem to enjoy. We have a look at all sorts of different areas of architecture, my favourites being modernism and Baroque, as stated in the last video, because they are very, very conflicting. Not conflicting, but different. And it is a nice way of showing that you've got a depth of study, so you're not just focusing on modernism and futurism, because they are quite resemblant of each other, and you're thinking outside of the box and how maybe you could be incorporating aspects of different areas of architecture within your work. The more research you have within your AO1 and your portfolio, the better, because you can talk about it in detail, you can be critical, you can be imaginative, and you can maybe combine areas of the two or more. It's not just two areas of architecture that we look at. We do have a look at multiple and numerous over a set number of pages. And just to inform you, like, the expectation within our subject is to generate pages of upwards of maybe 80 pages or slides on Google Slides, just because that gives a depth of research and a depth of generating ideas. So 80 pages is usually the minimum. Some students go up to having almost double that and having 160 slides by the end of the course, and half of that sometimes is just the research section. It is a very, very enjoyable course, so don't let the quantity of the pages put you off, because it is quite easy to lose yourself when doing research, because it gets you thinking about your designs in more detail, with more influence from past and present architectural movements. Okay, moving on to the second point, where we're having a look at the awareness of a variety of factors that influence the purposes, meanings and contexts of 3D design, such as ergonomic factors, ethical and conservational and economic considerations. So ethical meaning, is it ethical for the planet? That's how I've taken it anyway. Conservational, is it sustainable? Economic, is it plausible in terms of money? Production methods, is it actually doable? And practical, given the space. So if we're doing an architecture project, obviously we've got specific material amounts that we have, and storage limitations. So we're not expecting great big massive boards and presentation boards. We're only expecting it to be maximum kind of A2 size. And then we've got relevant knowledge of working arrangements within which particular 3D outcomes are produced, such as in set production for a stage play, understanding that most designers are essentially responsive and collaborative. So responsive, meaning there's a want and a need for the product or the piece of architecture in this case. And finally then, analytical skill, critical and contextual understanding in appraising, comparing and contrasting the work of relevant 3D designers and other contextual sources, informative and summative evaluation of personal designer processes and outcomes. And we're not doing mood boards, the pages with just pictures on, that's what we're drifting away from. You might have done one for GCSE. You may have even done a couple of inspirational ones just inspirational mood boards for AS level. However, we're not expecting just pictures on pages for this one. It needs to have some critical understanding. You need to be showing annotation, and you need to be showing how you're actually using the work of other designers within your own iteration and iterative design process. So I'm not going to go into that point more. If you have a look at my last video where I explained it at AS, then it goes into a little bit more detail. I'm just going to skim and scan and see if there's anything that I want to refer to within AO2. Now, if we remember, AO2 is talking about the creative making process. So specialised use of computer-aided design and control. We're talking the best architectural pieces that you can do on Fusion. Fusion is what we deliver personally, but of course you can be using things like Google SketchUp. Google SketchUp Pro is a fantastic one because it's likely used within architecture courses around the country. However, it is quite an expensive package to buy. Fusion 360 is what we use because it's free for education, and it's something that the pupils get to know within GCSE and then continue developing on at A level. So we've stuck with Fusion. It's kind of the bridge between Onshape and SolidWorks. It's a really nice package that I would encourage organisations to get their hands on if they can. But Onshape as well is also quite good. Please don't use Tinkercad. Anyways, back to AO2. You need to make sure that your final outcome is resemblant of the research that you've carried out within your research section. So what have you drawn out of your research and applied to within your design process? That's what we want to see throughout your designs and within your final outcome. Is there anything necessarily taken from Baroque or modernism and so on? And if so, what? Be analytical, have explanations behind it. The more you record, the better, because the more you can explain about the design process, the higher you're going to get in terms of the bands for AO2 and technically all of the other AOs. Each significant step in the creative process should be documented, as I've said, with particular attention given to the penultimate stage so that the final outcomes do not suddenly appear. Make sure that your final outcome looks similar to the design development or the design idea before it. Otherwise, it's just going to pop out of nowhere and you might be limiting yourself to perhaps band 3 or band 4. And then finally, within AO2, just make sure that you are being critical of your work and there is discrimination in reviewing and refining ideas as work develops. So make sure that it's getting better and better as you go along. As you continue through your journey, make sure that your work is consistently improving. So the way that I explained that at AS was perhaps your first page of your design ideas could be a few rough sketches that haven't been particularly drawn well and have just featured a lot of shapes that create a form. And then your final page of your design idea is your beautiful Fusion 360 renders and your CAD. So really, really nice progression from sketchbook to CAD. And you can be showing that all throughout your design pages. About 4 to 6 design pages we prefer. AO3 at A level then is the way that you present your work and the way that you organise your work. So have you gathered, selected, organised and communicated relevant information? Have you done that within your research and your inquiry process? Have you used kind of visual, tactile and other sources of reference? And have you given attention to rigorous analysis of the most appropriate design possibilities? Have you gone through maybe your favourite design movement or architecture movement in this case and explained why it's your favourite and how you could be incorporating themes from that architecture into your own design ideas? And are you being critical of your work? Are you saying what you like, what you dislike? Is there anything that you can improve and so on? And how could you improve? That's what we want to know. Remember, it's like storytelling. And then finally, AO4 is presentation of creative outcomes that are essentially personal solutions to design requirements and effectively realise stated intentions with evidence of personal curiosity and engagement. It needs to have not been done before. We want to see your designs, not somebody else's designs, whether or not that's been done in the past or it's somebody within your class. I want to see independent work. I don't mind you taking inspiration from Baroque or modernism, like I've said, but you can't be copying people's ideas. Otherwise, that is limiting, again, to your band 3, band 4. Are you making connections between the different elements of the submission? Are you making sure that you flow throughout your work? I keep going on, but that is probably the most important thing to reference within AS and A level art and design. You need to show it like a story. And have you then considered a different presentational format, such as design sheets, audio-visual program, selecting the most appropriate for those for the submission. So it could be that we do sketchbooks again with a presentation board, or a sketchbook and a presentation board and a portfolio, and so on and so forth. This is completely independent. It's up to the person, or it's up to the teacher delivering the subject. We tend to stick with the same thing for all of our students. However, we don't limit them. If they come up with a better idea of how they want to present their solutions, then of course we'll try and accommodate for that. And then finally, outcomes may take the form of finished pieces, prototypes, and full size or scale models. So in architecture, we obviously pick scale models as opposed to full size. Otherwise, we'd have a bit of a storage problem. And usually these are just one-off pieces, as they obviously can't be created as small batch or mass produced products. So I'm not going to go into too much more detail than that. Hopefully that's given you a little bit more information with regards to the way that we mark at A level. And if you want to go back and have a look at the mark scheme within the last video, the AS one is essentially just the same as the A level. So if you want more of an explanation of the mark scheme, then go back to that.